So I thought I'd talk adventures in wheelchairs for a minute today, and just sort of giving you a viewpoint of three different cities, and how things went. And it was so not how I was expecting it to go. So we did a date night, which was super exciting for me. It's been sort of a brutal time. I've been dislocating my legs like crazy, so I've had to use my wheelchair a lot lately. And sorry about the snorting. I'm sort of dealing with this. She's not feeling well today, so she's very snuggly and very snorty. Okay, anyway, I wanted to talk about the first place because it made me so happy and it meant a lot to me. So if you're ever in the Bay Area and you're over in the peninsula near Burlingame, head over to Sixtos. They're amazing. They couldn't have been nicer, and it made the date night just so much more special for my husband and I. And it wasn't really the city I was expecting to like. I am not really into Burlingame very much. It's lovely, but it's lovely. It's very oh, I don't know how to say it right. But it's definitely not my scene usually. But they redid all of their streets, so it's now incredibly wheelchair friendly. Super wide streets, people staring at their phones do not bother me because I have plenty of places to go around them. Wild and crazy dogs and toddlers with low self control are not a problem because I have plenty of area to move away from them. There are no tall ramps, there are no steps, there is no problems getting from one street to the next. This is sort of like ADA heaven. And the restaurant we went to, it was a Friday night, so it was super busy. So we went to Sixtos, and there could not have been a better experience. Like, the host just came running over to us. We had entered the restaurant from the back, and she made sure we had a space to get to the front. And then everyone there was nice. Like, and I'll explain why this is a big deal in a minute. But every single person was so helpful, and all they needed to do was just be notified that I was behind them, and they could not be more helpful to move out of the way. I even got smiles, which I really appreciate, instead of the glares, which I will get to. I promise you, this became an issue. So anyway, if you're around the area, first off, great food. I mean, seriously, fantastic food. And I couldn't believe how great the service was. I never felt like I was a burden, and I never felt like I didn't belong there. So that was wonderful because we went to one of my favorite places, which was in Berkeley, where I assumed that, hey, Berkeley, this is where everything's supposed to be accepting and lovely and inclusive. And it was such an awful experience. It was so shaming and stressful and dangerous. Oh, and by the way, I was going to also talk about the other city. I'm just going to quickly fly through this. My favorite place to go when I'm on the peninsula is San Mateo. The restaurants are amazing and strange. The snorting is real here. I like the restaurants. They're a lot more fun. I like sort of the vibe there. I love the art gallery that is now on 3rd Street, 4th Street. Anyway, if you're in the area, there's a lot to do in San Mateo if you can walk. Their streets are so bad that when I was in a manual wheelchair, I got thrown off of my wheelchair and into the street because to get from one street to another, the dip, it was super steep, and then it went into almost a V and then back up. And my manual wheelchair couldn't handle it, and I fell out of the wheelchair. Super fun. Also, the stores are often up a ramp, and they don't have a button that you can push. So if you're in a manual wheelchair, for those of you who do not do wheelchairs, not used to wheelchairs, let me just explain manual wheelchairs. If you're up on a ramp, you're fighting gravity. You're holding onto your wheel with one hand. You're holding onto the door with the other. You're pulling the door as you're letting yourself back up a little bit so you don't get hit in the face. And then you have to switch fast, take the brakes off, and then pull yourself through the door. That's all well and good if you have arms and ribs that work, but I have Ehlers-Danlos, so connective tissue disorder. I dislocate everything, which has happened before trying to get into stores like that. So San Mateo's out right now while I'm in my wheelchair full time. I'm what's known as an ambulatory wheelchair user, which sounds weird. but it means that I can walk sometimes. Much safer for me in a wheelchair. I do use my canes a lot, but I can go back and forth. So that's how that goes over in San Mateo. Now for the worst. And that was in a little town right near Berkeley and Oakland. And I have never had this kind of problem before. I generally sort of attract really nice, happy interactions when I'm out in public. And this left me feeling awful, especially since my kid was with me. And we were just out there trying to get some groceries, and the streets were so bad. It was dangerous. There were these random just like hills in the middle of sidewalks. People seemed really, I guess, stressed, upset. I've never had so many people just like almost walk into me and act like I was the one who was a problem. When they looked up from their phones and suddenly there's a person in a wheelchair in front of them. It was a lot of that. Where it got really bad was when we went to the grocery store, and it was a jam-packed day. I understand people are stressed. I certainly wasn't happy by that point. But in the grocery store, people were outright glaring. It was a super packed in grocery store, and since I apparently was taking up more space than a person with a baby in a stroller or something, it really made people aggressive with me. And if I did not move fast enough, I was getting just glares. They were cutting short over my wheels. And the worst one was this woman who huffed, glared, and actually hitched up her skirt and stepped over my legs, which was weird and strange. And I was not happy with having someone that much in my personal space. And I just was done with the whole experience. So I decided to take my daughter like further down to another store, and she saw this new store she really wanted to check out. So we went into it, and I'm not exaggerating when I say that their mat was about that big. And even in my Will CI wheelchair, by the way, I'm not sponsored by Will CI. I wish I was. That's a very expensive chair. But it does make my life possible when I can't get out of bed or walk or move very well. It's one of my favorite things in the world. I wish they would sponsor me. Anyway, this one was not thrilled with me coming into her space. I don't know why. Maybe because I started off a little passive aggressive. I need to work on that. But my kid basically shot back to the back of the store, which wouldn't have been a problem, except their center display did not allow enough space on either side for me to get back towards my child. And my child was screaming at me for, to come over and take a look at things. And the woman who apparently owned the store just looked over and she said, "You can just ask me for help." And it was said in that tone. It's my favorite tone. It's usually my teenager's tone. But it was said in that tone. And I said, I really actually wouldn't even know what to ask you. I have never been to your store, and I can't get back there to see what there is. So I think we're good. I'll just wait here for her if you don't mind. By the way, to get into your store was a little hard. I just want to let you know, in case, you're dealing with the public. Some of us are disabled. Just letting you know that was really hard for me to get over that 3-inch mat you have. And she got super angry with me, and she got really aggressive and started telling me about all of her incredibly wealthy clients who love that mat, which I think is very interesting. I have lots of strong opinions. I've never had a strong opinion about a mat, except that I couldn't get over this one. So I found it really fascinating that these incredibly wealthy wheelchair users loved having to work to get into her store. Anyway, that's my story of 3 cities and wheelchair using. If you want to put comments at the bottom, I would love to hear your wheelchair stories. I am fascinated by how life with a disability is in other countries, other cities, other states. Please let me know, how do you all get around? Are you guys able to use public transportation? Is there anything in your communities that help? The public transportation is my biggest pet peeve. I have a huge issue with it here in the Bay Area. I am livid about it because BART does not keep things clean, and that's our public transportation system here in the Bay Area. And you all know, if it's on the ground, it's on your hands. And that's a big issue in San Francisco BART stations. And the other one is the elevators don't always work. So you don't know what station you're going to be able to get off on as a wheelchair user. until you get there. And not all the elevator systems work all the time, so they'll just let you know over the loudspeaker whether you can get off on your stop or not. So please tell me how it goes with your public transportation systems. I would love to hear it. I would love to hear how you all get around and some of your favorite pet peeves and moments in wheelchairs. Thanks so much, everyone. If you like the snark, like the talk about wheelchairs and chronic illness and disabilities and pug snorting, head over to invisiblenotbroken.com. We have a podcast and we interview other people with disabilities and chronic illness and caregivers and healthcare professionals. So head over, take a listen. We have the podcast we have the YouTube channel, as you are saying. Please hit subscribe. And we also have a blog full of snark and entertainment. So thank you so much for listening. Please pass this along and have a great day.